Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords Podcast. My name is Katherine, and I am your host. And I will give you a fair warning. If you are here to listen to some astrology content from an actual real-life astrologer, you are in the second best place. In all honesty, I don't necessarily consider myself an astrologer. So if that's something that you're looking for, like I said, you're in the second best place. I am an alchemist. I consider myself an alchemist. I love astrology. I have a deep, deep love for astrology. I've loved astrology since I was like 13 years old. The relationship has definitely have its ups and downs. I've had to, take a break from astrology and then pick up, I guess you could say, my notepad and my favorite astrology books and get right back into the swing of things. So let's get into this episode. So this episode is all about the Zodiacs. All about the introduction of the Zodiacs. I will be covering each Zodiac in more detail. So I do feel like this astrology series is going to be an everlasting thing because we have been starting in chronological order from the planets to the Zodiacs to the houses, all the way to some of the most critical degrees. So if you want to listen to this podcast, to the astrology series in chronological order, where I talk about the history, the energy of the asteroids, the dark Lilith, and so on, I highly recommend that you check it out on YouTube because YouTube's going to give you the chronological order of the playlist. So let's get into the Zodiacs. The Zodiacs are really, I would say, the thing that turned astrology into astrology versus astrology being astronomy, because astronomy is how the planets move, where the planets are going, the direction that they're moving from, the direction that they're in synchronicity, you know what I mean, within the sky. Where astrology is more about what the planets are doing related to the zodiacs, related to the area of the celestial bodies of the zodiacs, of that energy surrounding it. And I will tell you, I practice tropical astrology. There's all types of astrology, which we've talked about before, but this is a very mundane, basic. I'm a basic bitch, okay? And I practice the basic shit. And that is tropical Western astrology. So if that's what you're into, you're in the right place. I would say that when we are looking at astrology and the energy of astrology, there's two main factors: the astronomy, the movement of the planets, and where they're going, and also the energy of the zodiacs. So you could not have astrology without the zodiacs. And that's why I just get so, when people are like, oh my gosh, all you guys do is talk about the zodiacs. These TikTokers, these influencers, these new wave astrologers don't actually read astrology. And I will say, yes, the astrology pop culture is very taunting, especially if you're like a professional astrologer and you're like, if I hear one more zodiac prediction, or if I hear one more thing about what zodiacs are best in bed, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit. I totally get it. Totally get it. But astrology is supposed to be intriguing. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be centered around that area of professionalism, learning, education, increasing the frequency of the mind waves, and also having some joy. So guys, get your panties out of the bunch and just let the zodiac pop culture live a little. All right, let's get into it. So the energy of astrology has to really come down to a few factors. And one of those factors is the yin and the yang, the energy of polarity. And I talked about this in the last astrology podcast when we were talking about asteroids. So I'm not going to go into a full on description. But the energy of yin and yang, feminine and masculine, is really seen as an energy of harmony and balance. So each polarity, as some might say, is the energy of the dualities within the zodiacs, representing the complementary energies that balance each other out. These polarities are often seen as the opposite or the opposing. So for instance, for a Leo, it would be an Aquarius, so on and so on, because each sign has its counterpart directly across from them in the zodiac wheel. There is a breakdown of what happens with this energy. It is like a push and pull, right? Each polarity consists of one active sign. The active sign is the masculine sign, and one feminine sign, which is the receptive sign. So for instance, we have Aries, which is fire, and then we have diagonal or opposite of it would be Libra, which is air. So those are actually two active signs. Those are two masculine signs. And their energy is themed around self, as the Aries is known as having that energy of self, identity, the individual space, where the Libra, the other air sign, is seen more as a others, right? We always talk about how the Libra is centered around social justice, the energy of what others are doing, fixing problems that are affecting others, and kind of having that harmony and balance. Their overall energy is around the two verses of dualities. The Aries focuses more on the energy of identity and self and that personal drive, the energy of self-expression, while the Libra emphasizes the relationships, the harmony, and the collaboration that it takes to have this cycle moving, to have the energy in its, I guess you could say, harmonious state. The Libra loves to be harmonious. Then let's look at each of the signs, but we're going to do it in a faster rhythm and kind of do it in an overall, I guess you could say, area where it feels a little bit more just faster, okay? So the Taurus, Earth, is opposite of Scorpio. Once again, they're not true opposites because they are still the same energy. They are still the same receptive energy in some stance. They have the theme of possession and transformation, where the Taurus values the energy of stability, material security, and also comfort, while the Scorpio is deep tied into emotional connections and transformation. Another group is the Gemini, which is an air sign, which is opposing the Sagittarius. That is centered around fire. So they are different. For instance, as we can see with the Taurus, one was a earth, one was a water. Now we've moved on to the Sagittarius and the Gemini, where the Gemini is the air and the Sagittarius is the fire. So different in the elements, same in the overall polarity. So as we see, similar but different elements. The Gemini, the air, Sagittarius, fire. The theme with this Gemini is more based off of like local issues, collective issues, community issues, areas around socialization. We know those Geminis love to talk and get into the collective forefront, where the Sagittarius is more seen as a global type of creature. The Gemini is curious, right? The Gemini loves communication and does have that energy around immediate movement and immediate surroundings and being like that social butterfly, where the Sagittarius focuses more on the bigger, the broader. Almost seem like we always say Sagittarius is they're like a little brave, right? The braver expansion, the energy of the broader horizons, and looks at more of like the philosophy behind the social groups. While the Gemini wants to be all up in them social groups, the Sagittarius wants to look at how come these social groups are moving, what's keeping them grooving, and the long-term vision that is behind it. We also have to look at the element of Cancer. Okay. Cancer and Capricorn are like two of my favorite polarities, two of my favorite opposing signs in some ways, because we have the Cancer, which is the water, and then the Capricorn, which is the earth. And we see that theme, right? The Cancer is always known for being that nurturing, emotional, very, I guess you could say, balanced state of practice where it feels like security, it feels safe, it feels home, it feels loving. And then we see the Capricorn, and Capricorn's like based off of achievement, and Capricorn's like go, 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 go. There's no kissing, there's no hugging around here. It's about focus, drive, and moving that ass. So we see the difference. Similar, yes, both feminine, both receptive energies, but different mindsets, different nature about them, where the Capricorn seeks that ambition, that career focus, and that public recognition, right? Different, but same. Now let's look at the Leo and the Aquarius. So the Leo is a fire sign, and the Aquarius is an air sign. We have that, I guess you could say, that energy that feels a little bit volatile, right? Fire, air, the energy, fire, being moved by air. And the theme of the two are individuality, as the Leo is centered around the individualist in some ways, similar to the Aries, and also the Aquarius, similar to the Gemini in some aspects, is centered around community. We know the Aquarius is the humanitarian. The Leo thrives on that energy of expression, showing themselves, showing up for the collective, showing up for the center of movement, right? Showing up for that energy. And the Leo thrives on personal expression, thrives on creativity, thrives on leadership. Like a Leo is a good fucking manager. I mean, maybe besides being a narcissist, just joking. But in all actuality, the Leo likes that recognition. So does an Aquarius. Don't let an Aquarius tell you that they're fucking humble. They might be inverted, but they're not necessarily that humble. They like the recognition as well. Also, the Aquarius prioritizes on collective ideas, innovation, and social equality. So an Aquarius can be a good leader too, while it might not be that trait that they're, I guess you could say, known for. Like when people look at an Aquarius, they're not like, that's a good leader. If the world's ending and I want somebody to, guide my collective, I'm going to choose an Aquarius. Most people would say, I'm going to choose a Leo because that's what a Leo is known for. But the Aquarius actually might be able to lead them all to water. Just saying. But let's get into it. So the Aquarius and the Leo, different, similar, both masculine, but very different in the aspects of the area of traits. And the last, because there's only 6 polarities, because we have 12 zodiacs, is the earth sign, the Virgo. And of course, the water sign, the Pisces. And in all honesty, when I think about the Virgo is really like around that energy of like being practical, analytical, being that center around practical energy, realistic, versus the Pisces that's like spiritual in the conscious space, also in the woke space. Like I feel like if you look up Pisces, it's like woke. It's like, everybody wants to be woke now. Jesus, we see that water walker, that spiritual insight, that energy of like spiritual practice, that energy of not being in reality, almost being out of reality, that consciousness going in and out. Definitely a very different center, right? A very different center. Like the Virgo wants to see what the book says. The Virgo looks at the book and they're like, I need to read this book. The Pisces looks at the book and says, I can already tell you what's all in that fucking book. I don't need to open it. I don't need to read it. I can already tell you what's in that fucking book. And they're different in some spaces. The Virgo is very detail oriented. Like you want a Virgo nurse, okay? You want a Virgo nurse. The Virgo nurse is going to make sure you're in the right direction. The Virgo nurse is very detail oriented, very analytical, very service driven, very caring. Will have you on a good walking routine. The Virgo is going to get your ass up and be like, let's move. Let's get you out of here. Let's do all these things in an analytical space, in this analytical timeline. They're going to have you on their daily organizer. The Pisces, the Pisces going to be like, yeah, I feel like he doesn't want to get up today. And the Pisces might be more embodied on intuition, where the Virgo is looking at the data, but the Pisces is getting the feeling, sugary, I need to call somebody. He's going down. So the Pisces and the Virgo both work different, similar, but work different. The areas of compassion is more seen with the Pisces. The Pisces is going to be the one listening to your life story, wanting to know more what happened, holding your hand, getting centered around that area of helping you move forward in a positive direction, or even move forward into the next realm, right? I could definitely see a Pisces nurse being the one who is like a death doula or a hospice nurse, where they're kind of like centered around the ethereal realm of movement. They have that compassion, that energy around, kind of like a little touch of Neptune, giving them a little chef's kiss on allowing the mind to escape to that different energy of dimensions. So definitely two different but quite similar aspects of the zodiacs. And when we are talking about key insights of the polarities, the energies complement each other. The energies of strengths, two sides, same coin, but two different energies, right? As we see, two different sides of the door. We have the front door, we have the back door. The door still holds a lot of value. Without the door, it's not going to work. The energy is not going to work, but they are very different. So harmonizing these energies is sometimes the difficulty that these two polarities have. I often feel like these two polarities that we just kind of, the energies are driven to each other. It's like, oh, I love you, you love me, but then they come up with some, I guess you could say, obstacles over the harmonious aspect. Let's get into the elements. Now, when we are talking about the elements, we are talking about the triplicity, which basically is 12 zodiacs. We have 12 zodiacs, hey guys, and we'll get into the last hidden zodiac later, way later. But we have 12 zodiac signs that are based off of their element: fire, earth, air, and water. This is the basic elements. I know there's a lot of cultures, a lot of astrologies, a lot of practices that have way more elements than this. And some have vice versa in some aspects, like I believe in Chinese astrology, they do have 4 elements, but their 4 elements, or actually they have 5 elements. Their 5 elements are air, earth, fire, metal, and wood. And that's why in Chinese astrology, we often see the wood dragon, the metal snake, or stuff like that. They have that element of fire. And if I got it wrong, I'm not fluent in Chinese astrology, but here in Western astrology, we have the 4, and they are earth, air, fire, and water. And for the energy that we see, there's different factors about them. With fire signs are seen as the area of initiation, the area of movement, the area of like collecting that energy to make the first spark. Since we are talking about fire signs, it is seen as a creative, destructive, and also angry type of movement. Also, there is an energy that feels really centered around the physical with fire signs, like moving. Like a fire sign's gonna actually move. Like they're gonna get their ass up and fucking move. And they tend to like have this area of where fire is the element that moves and also destroys. So, a fire sign will build up the beautiful toy structure. Like if you have a fire sign kid, I have two, okay? I have two. Not kids no more, but the fire sign kid is the one who's going to build up the beautiful tower, the Lego tower, the block tower, build it. It's going to be magnificent. And then for basically, because you want to take a picture of it, then that fire sign kid is going to kick it down before you even get a chance to take a picture of it. I'm just saying. That's how a fire sign kid works. They're a little bit fun, but they make you want to pull out your hair at times. And especially if you have a boy fire sign, honey, oh, baby girl, I will be praying for you. But definitely they are centered around the energy of movement, a lot of movement. Their qualities are they're passionate, they're dynamic, they're energetic, they're bold, their focus is action, inspiration, and enthusiasm. When we look at fire signs, and fire signs are Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, they are centered around the energy of being impulsive, and we sometimes worry about burnout with them. We worry about them getting impatient. A impatient fire sign makes sense. It does make sense. It's not like we're going to expect a fire sign to wait around for you. That ain't happening, honey. A fire sign will be the one who's like, excuse me, I need to be seen right now. Like, excuse me, a fire sign will definitely let you know they're here. They'll definitely know that you've been late, and they'll definitely know that they've been waiting. Okay. They don't like to wait for nobody. Like if I see a fire sign and they're like, or if I see like somebody and they're like running through the store, like grabbing shit, and they just look like they are in an all-time hurry, I'm thinking fire sign, or I am thinking air sign. Like the area of waiting is not an option. They're like, get out of my way. And then let's look at the earth signs. So the element of earth, when we are looking about the earth signs, it is centered around the area of resources and materials. And the element of the actual minerals that are basics to our areas of wealth and professional stability. The earth signs are seen as the area of like movement, where it has the form of the life cycle. You know, here on earth is where everything grows. We don't see no plants growing in the fucking sky. We don't see no plants growing in fire. But here on earth, it grows. It's centered around the energy of the systems of, I guess you could say, biology, and also the systems of resources. It is an area that generates. So the earth signs are known for having that energy of generation and also the energy of movement and life force, as one might say. The earth signs include the Taurus, the Virgo, and the Capricorn. Their qualities are based off of being practical. They're analytical. They are grounded and they are stable. Definitely when we look at, and then we are going to get into the chakras. So as for the fire sign, if we are looking at the elements, I would definitely say solar plex. Because fire, the energy of the solar plex is fire. Now the earth signs, the energy of that they have as the forefront, the earth signs, we are looking at the area of reliable, practical. They have an energy of resource and the earth. So what comes to mind when you are first thinking about the earth as a whole and the energy of the chakras? That would definitely be the root chakra, the energy of stability, material security, the energy of focus and structure and feeling safe. Their key words, if we are going to say that there's key words that describe the earth signs, would be hard workers. They are hard workers. They're little worker bees. You go, Capricorn. You go work yourself to the end of time, right? You go for that promotion, boo. You go for that promotion, right? Me, fire sign, I'm just trying to stay out of HR's office. Okay. That's all I gotta say. But you go ahead, you do that. You do that, right? They definitely have patience. So like the earth sign is going to be like, oh, I see this fire sign sweating bullets behind me in a line, like, and they only have two things. The earth sign's going to look at them and say, you want to go in front of me? And the fire sign is going to be like, yes, I do. Oh my God, I got to get out of here. And the fire sign is going to, say, thank you so much, blah, 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 and go. So they have more patience. They're more centered around responsibility. They have that area of like, they're not too much in a rush. They understand patience is a virtue. And they have that area of like sensuality too, right? Because earth signs are seen as the feminine sign, that area that's more emotional, a little bit more nourishing. But they do have their challenges. Oh, their challenges are, yes, they are there. You get me an earth sign, I could tell you, they could be rigid, honey. They cannot be very nice around the corners. They got that, you're like, okay, what's wrong with you? You kind of, they got that stank face today. You know what I mean? Like they're a little, no, thank you. They could be stubborn and they could be frustrated. Ooh, you get a frustrated earth sign, you get a stubborn earth sign, you are in trouble. The earth sign is the one who's always overthinking in the relationship. If it's not an air sign, it's a fucking earth sign. And they're like, what? Remember back in 2012, you said you were going to call me, but you didn't call me. And I really think something else was going on. Like they're going to like try to figure out that puzzle back from way back. And you're like, girl, you already forgave me. Forget about it. Forget about it. They over focus on not just things and events and people, but also the energy of certain materials and certain times and certain items. Like I could even see an earth sign being the one who like has to have certain things in their house. Like they have to be remodeling their house all the time, or they have to be doing something around the house all the fucking time, or in the garden. Like a earth sign needs a garden. They need to get outside, put their hand in soil. Like they need to be out there. They can't be, they can't just be sitting at the house. They're always working on a project. And most earth signs do quite well at like cooking, working on projects and stuff like that. Air signs, the qualities of the air signs when we are looking at air signs as a whole, air signs I would say are definitely more centered around the energy of air. But there is a little energy of the higher chakras that come to play when we are looking at some of the air signs. So the air signs, when we are looking at the energy of air, that would really be around the energy of sound. So that would almost be like the throat chakra and also the energy of the third eye, and a little bit more focused on the areas of communication and more centered around expression. The air signs love to express. The air signs can be very centered around like kind of spinning or chaotic. Like I feel like the Gemini, the Libra, and the Aquarius can be way more chaotic than some of the other signs. Like you see somebody just not making any sense, running around a hot ass mess, it might be an air sign. And they're centered around like the energy of movement, but also the energy of manipulation. And sometimes that energy of manipulation can often be misused. So there are times where people will say like, damn, you're very manipulative. And it's probably because they're an air sign, stellium. Like I've had somebody look at my chart and they've been like, do you know everything in your chart means that you can like manipulate? Yeah, I do. I know. I tend to manipulate the energy around me and the people too. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the air signs are centered around that energy of intellectual space, communication, the social networks. They're very innovative. Like you find an air sign, they're like, I'm here for the technology. Most air signs, they like to socialize with people, but they also like to kind of be off into their own energy and maybe like geek out with their AI. Like they're definitely the ones who are in the AI chats all fucking day. Oh my God. Can you kick them Aquariuses and Libras and Geminis out? And I honestly feel like it's more of the Gemini and the Aquarius. The Libra is kind of centered around other obstacles and other movements. They have that energy of like focus and ideas and relationships. And they have a big like center around abstract thinking. So the air signs are always thinking out of the box. Like an air sign, you're like, can you come back over here? Can you come back and explain this to the people? Like Geminis are always thinking out of the box. Geminis are always saying some shit that will like get somebody offended or cause a ruckus, And they are really centered around curiosity. Like if you expect an air sign not to be curious, that's like expecting a cat not to want to wander outside. Like, no, they have to be curious. They have to feed, they have to nourish that quench of enthusiasm that they have for wanting to know, for learning. They are kind of like diplomatic and some, they want to listen to the other person's side, and they are centered around collaboration. Air signs are the people who will collaborate with you. Air signs are also the people who will get out there and really help create this energy of unity in some spaces. But they're also tremendously independent. So an air sign wants to remind everybody that even though they like hanging out with you, they don't necessarily have to. And they don't necessarily want to, but they just are. That's kind of like how the air signs are. I mean, they're a fun bunch. Definitely they are a fun bunch. And when we look at the energy of air, the energy of air is cold, it could be hot, and it can move. It can move subtle, but it can move fast. And it really brings that element that kind of like take somebody out, right? You ever been standing in a windy day and almost get knocked out? There's definitely some energy that moves in that focus. Now, when we are looking at the water signs, and when we are looking at the energy of water, water has that movement that feels beautiful. I just love water. I could look out like the ocean all day. Like to me, that is the best day. Packing a lunch, going outside, looking at the ocean. It could also be like being at the lake, being at the river, even just like listening to water. And water is such a valuable resource. And it has so much potent energy. Like we can't live without water. And it is very like centered around the energy of movement, the sea, the river, the places of the lakes. And the water is seen to like relax and heal and nourish us. Like we can take a warm bath and just like soak in water. I mean, I absolutely love water. Like I need a bathtub. I need to be by the water. So the water is centered around the energy of like the feminine womb, and water signs are a feminine. So what are babies in? Babies are in the womb, in the water. So that's why so many of us have this drive to go back to the water, is because we have this drive to go back to the wound. We have that drive to go back to the energy of being nourished, being centered around energies of feeling and healing and having that connection, that deep emotional and also beautiful connection that the water element brings. Water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And while their qualities are emotional and nourishing, they're also seen as very intuitive. I feel like, in all honesty, when we are looking at intuition as a whole, water signs and air signs always kind of like, I guess you could say, spark that energy where I'm like, oh yeah, they're like a little bit intuitive. Like when I'm reading somebody's chart or like I'm pulling tarot cards, let's say I know that they are a water sign or an air sign. I'm already like, but you already knew this, right? You're just here because you need, I don't know, some confirmation. Like you already knew this. But for whatever reason, you just need to have it reiterated one more time, or you already knew this was the right decision. And I'm going to say most people, most zodiacs already, but the water signs, they already know it. Like they're already like, I already knew what cards you were going to pull. I already knew, they already knew it. They're just here. They're just here for the fun. And they're very deep. They're very deep. Like water signs are more deep than, air signs, and both intuitive, but they're a little bit more deep. Like a water sign feels it with their soul. They really feel it. Like they really, really feel that energy deep down in the collective space of the spirit. Where air sign might be like, I knew it, different, but similar. The focus in some energies are around like emotions, intuition, spiritual connection. Water signs want to have that spiritual connection. They don't, you get a water sign who's a hoe. It's not going to sit right with their soul for the long run. Like, casual hookups with a water sign for the water sign isn't necessarily the best thing. And for all zodiacs, but the water sign might feel that heartbreak a little bit longer. I don't know why so many male water signs tend to be downright dirty dogs, but some of them are. And unfortunately, it tends to backfire on them in this energy of their emotional space and their energy of feeling connected. So the energy of having strong spiritual connections for the water signs in all aspects is where you need to be. Their energy is around being compassion, creative, and also healing. They love a good mystery. A water sign, honey, they are listening to murder mysteries, crime channel. They are like all into it. They love to go deep down those rabbit holes. Like they go so deep down those rabbit holes. You're like, where'd you go? Did you turn into the damn rabbit? Like, where you at? Can you come back out? The water signs are fun. They're definitely fun, but they have some challenges. Like all the zodiacs have some challenges. They're definitely oversensitive at times. They can be a little emotional there, and they definitely sometimes can feel a little bit emotionally overwhelmed. They love to have a good escape. Like they love to disconnect from the family, and from the collective, just like air signs. So, the air signs challenges similar to the water signs, and that's why I didn't really follow up with the air signs challenges. And one of their challenges is they don't follow up. They don't follow through. They tell you they're going to do something and they don't, which a water sign tends to escape more. Like they know they got to do it, they just don't want to. An air sign might have forgot or they might have started something else. Air signs also can get very detached. So an air sign, you got a bad relationship, that air sign, they might not break up with you right away, but they're going to detach from you first. And then one day you're going to come home and all their shit is packed. And they're going to be like, well, I've already been like, in a relationship with somebody else for like 2 months now. Oops, I should have told you. Like they're just a different concept where a water sign will escape and then maybe like cry about it, be more emotionally inclined to tell you about it. And then they'll finally say, I'm out of here. but you kind of already knew it was coming, right? Air signs are a little bit indecisive, where water signs, they're not indecisive, but they have a hard time standing firm on the yes or no, because in some ways they kind of want both. And that's the difference of the energy of the challenges that the two bring. Very similar in some aspects. Like everybody's like, why isn't Aquarius a water sign? Because they are a water barrier, but an Aquarius is more chaotic and also a little bit more innovated, and they're centered a little bit more around the collective than a water sign. So an Aquarius, because you figure air is moving, where water is moving as well, but it's moving in its own energy of space. So the difference between the polarities, and I love the way The Secret Language of Astrology, the book, kind of explains it. When we have the feminine energies, the energy of the yang, and that would be the water signs and the earth signs. And then we have the energy of the air signs, which are the energy of yin, and that is the masculine energy, where the yang is the feminine. We have the air signs and the fire signs. So it's like the air signs and the fire signs want to take up space. They want to take up space. They want to be that energy of taking up space, where the water signs are the space. The earth signs are the space. So you're trying to take up this energy around me, but I am already this space. So simmer down. Okay, so we're going to start to look at the energy of finding the core shapes that approach the life in some spaces. So we have to remember that when we are looking at this energy that moves around from the different elements, we have to take from each one. We have to move with each one. We have to see the energy of connection and also the energy of the movement. And the energy of the movement is really centered around the astrology of each of these zodiacs, and also the rulership, if that is the time that they were born or the planet. There's a huge influence in each one of these as an individual. While water signs, air signs, fire signs, and earth signs are all similar, they all have this area of duality. If they were born at night, so the diurnal or the nocturnal, if they were born at the day. Diurnal is daytime, nocturnal is nighttime. That creates a huge influence on each of these zodiacs. And we also have to remember there's a seasonal connection with the water signs and the air signs. So the energy can feel very different depending if they're a mutable sign, fixed sign, or cardinal sign, and we're going to get into that. So each one of these has its own area of correspondence to the natural process of the cycles of the seasons. So fire signs, traditionally we see spring, summer, warmth, vitality. A lot of like forest fires occur during Leo season, especially here in California. And also like Cancer, the warm months. Earth signs, the energy around growth and harvest of resources. So we'll see with earth signs, we see there's a lot of movement around spring and also around winter and fall, definitely. While they all, I guess you could say, play out in each season, there's certain areas that are very dominant that relates to that element. Air, the movement of flow and ideas. For instance, like the wind, we see that air energy kind of pick up around the energy as we are getting introduced with spring, as we have the Aquarius, and then also the energy of movement, socialization, as we are in spring, as we have the Gemini, which is centered around that space of like people are going outside more, they're getting more social, the flow of ideas and movement like the wind. Then we have that energy of Libra, which is around the fall. It's not quite winter yet, right? It's not quite cold yet. People are still outside. They're still enjoying the energy of movement. And then we see the water The water is centered around the emotional depth. And we see with the area of correspondence with the seasons, we also see how the water, we have the Pisces, kind of like the gateway right before we hit Aries season, right? It's like that last gateway transitioning from winter, especially in the northern hemisphere. And it opens up like the rivers, like the oceans, like the movement, right? And then also we see it kind of flow on to the energy of the Cancer, which would be the summer months, right? Summer solstice. Then we see the energy of how it kind of cycles on through the energy of the cold emotional depth that the Scorpio season. I will tell you, Scorpio season, the last Scorpio season we were in, honey, I was exhausted. So let's get into the energy of the mutable signs, or let me go in rhythm, cardinal signs, fixed signs, and the mutable signs. So the three quadruplicities, also known as the cardinal signs, the fixed signs, and the mutable signs, they're all entangled in the web of seasons. So they're described this each way because they are the modalities, not the dualities, but the modalities, the movement, the energy of creation that each one of these have. And they're all centered around the seasons. So they're kind of like how they make shit work, how this all works together. And I love how the secret language, well, like I said, the secret language of astrology, to me, if you like pictures, if you're a very visual person, go buy that book. I love the book. And I love how they explain it as the cardinal sign being the spoon, the fixed signs are the bowl, and the mutable signs are the ingredients. So together, you can't bake a cake if you don't have the spoon, if you don't have the bowl, and you don't have the ingredients, right? So they are the cluster of what makes it all happen, what makes the end product. And they are centered around areas of how the world adapts, the areas of action in the world, the area of movement in the world, the area of movement in the season. So the cardinal signs, the first one, and the cardinal signs are, I guess you could say, the first starter of each season. And the cardinal signs are the Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So there's only 3 quadruplicities, and each one of them holds 4 zodiacs. And then we have 3 times 4 is 12, guys. So the signs are basically the indicators of that energy of the zodiac. Their traits are focused on leadership, ambition, and the drive to start new projects and ideas. And when we look at it, that makes sense for these zodiacs, the Aries, the Cancer, the Libra, the introduction, each to its own season, or the energy around the season. They are centered around taking charge, being proactive, and are great at getting things moving. They do have some challenges. They can lose focus. They can also lose momentum and energy. And sometimes their initial excitement fades. And I would say I see that with Aries. Like I see an Aries being like, I'm going to start this project. 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 And then they say, I started it, but that don't mean I'm going to finish it. Like they're just different in that way, right? They definitely have that energy that feels a little bit different. It's just like, okay, that sounded fun. Not so fun anymore. And they can lose that focus, but that's okay. We still love them, right? The Aries is the entryway to spring, the Cancer, the entryway to summer, and spring. Spring is the Aries, Libra, autumn, Capricorn, winter. So both the introduction of each season, and that is the beginning of the season. So that's why they are the cardinal signs. And what's also interesting about when we are talking about these signs and when we are talking about the energy of where it is in the chart, that each one of these all line up together. So they will always have this correspondence as we see it with the energy of the lunar nodes. That could be the destiny nodes. It could be like Pluto. So like when Pluto was with Capricorn, it was all centered around each one of these signs, affecting them in different aspects. Now, Pluto is with Aquarius, so it's more centered around the fixed signs. Also, we have to remember when there's a full moon, when there's that energy of transition for each one of these energies of the seasons. If it's like a full moon in Aries, it would be affecting the energy of the Libra because it would be a area around the Libra sun. And also it would have a correspondence energy around Cancer and Capricorn as well. So let's look at the fixed signs. The fixed signs are centered around the energy of the Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. That's why I always said fixed signs are going to have a lot of change as Pluto is in Aquarius. We're going to see it right now with them for the next few years. Obviously, Pluto will be there nesting quite comfortably for a very long time. So we have that energy of being like the stabilizers, the ones who are fixed, the ones who are centered, the ones who are the preservers in some ways. They're determined, they're loyal, and they are consistent when you think about the traits of these fixed signs. They are reliable and they can be deeply committed and excellent at following through. So the fixed signs, you might have a hard time getting them to start the project, but when they start the project, they're going to finish it. They are going to finish it, or they are at least going to get told they can't finish it. But for whatever reason, they are going to follow through. A fixed sign, if they say they're going to do something, like people are like, oh, I thought you were going to like flake out. No, boo. No. A fixed sign's like, I'm going to be there. They're going to be there. Where maybe an air sign would be like, oh, it really sounded fun going out that night, but I'm not going to be there. So different energy, but different type of zodiacs. We also see that with fixed signs, their challenges can be that stubborn mentality. They're like, I'm right, you're wrong. Bye. Like they're not focused on your area of why you think you're right. They already know they're right. They're resistant to change. They don't want to change anything. They're not going to change anything. Don't think you're going to change them. You are not going to change a fixed sign. If you can't learn to live with that fixed sign the way they are, move on. I mean, some fixed signs do compromise, but to change, honey, oh, good luck with that. And they can be overly kind of rough around the edges. Like fixed signs are just not warm and fuzzy. I just don't see fixed signs as being warm and fuzzy. Like a Taurus, doesn't give me warm and fuzzy. A Leo, no. I don't feel warm and fuzzy by a Leo. I mean, yeah, I could see a Leo be warm and fuzzy with her cubs, with her kids, but not really like that warm and fuzzy nature. An Aquarius, yeah, there's some, but those Aquariuses, they're all imposters. They're not really, that's why it doesn't feel authentic when they are warm and fuzzy. You're like, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? Change that. That's not you. Stop it. Stop faking it. Scorpios, I don't get warm and fuzzy. I just don't. And they can also be centered around like disconnecting in some ways. Okay. I'm checked in, but I'm not checked in, I could try something new. They could be loyal, but then they can also be a little disconnected. And their seasonal connections are centered around the middle of each season, symbolizing the area of stability and steadiness. So they are pretty stable for themselves, but they could be a challenging partner, I will say. And we have the Taurus, who is in the spring, stabilized in the spring, honey. The Leo, the center of summer, and Scorpio, right boom in the middle of autumn, right in the middle of autumn, brings on Halloween when the veil is so thin. Aquarius, winter, definitely in that winter season, giving you the cold shoulder all the way long. Then we have the mutable signs. The mutable signs, I would say, are definitely one of the funnest. Like, you get me around a good mutable sign, honey, we are having a good time. Like, a mutable sign just allows everybody to have fun, allows them to have fun. I love mutable signs. Like, I really like mutable signs with cardinal signs. It feels like a clusterfuck, but it feels like a fun clusterfuck. Like, you're like, yeah, the party starters are here. I mean, for the most part, right? Mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Some say the mutable signs are all the serial killers. Can we really be that focused? Well, mutable signs do definitely have a bad reputation of being the ones that go a little kooky. But anyways, we have the Gemini, the Virgo, the Sagittarius, and the Pisces. And their areas kind of like they adapt. They are the adapters, right? You're trying to get like a Taurus, an Aquarius, or a Scorpio to change. They're like, meh, I'm not doing it. I don't care. Bye. But a mutable sign would be like, yeah, I can adapt. I could do some, changing. You want to go out with your girlfriends? That's fine, because I already got something set up with the guys. You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of like centered around making change. They make the other zodiacs change too, which is interesting, right? They can definitely be the ones who are like the ones who get people on the energy of change. Like, let's move around, let's do this, let's do that. Like, they might be the planners, the ones who are looking at the philosophy of moving in different directions. They're very flexible. They have that trait of being a little bit flexible and curious, and willingness to go with the flow in certain areas. It's funny because when I look at the mutable signs, I'm kind of looking at like my friends who are in the healthcare industry. Like, I'm like, oh, yep, she's a Sagittarius. She's a yoga instructor. Oh yeah, my other friend, she's a Pisces and she owns a gym. That makes sense on the willingness to go with the flow, the willingness of the strength of being versatile and having like resources and being centered around movement and seeing that area of creating change around other people. Like Virgos, I definitely think are good teachers. I definitely see that area. They are versatile, they are resourceful, and they are skilled at adapting to new situations. Also, we see that energy of like challenges. They can be indecisive and they can also be inconsistent and overly like scattered. They can be a little scatterbrained. Like, you're like, okay, I know you want to start this and you're saying you want to start this, but you got like 20 zillion things going. So are you really going to start this, or are we going to choose one and choose a step and kind of keep that step moving? They definitely have that area of where they want to change all the time, which could be kind of like a step back. Like, they're kind of like able to adapt. So they're like, let me just try something new. No, you need the little area of consistency. So their challenges definitely, while their strengths are adapting to new situations and being skillful in new areas of situations and having that energy of resource, it could sometimes make them a little indecisive. Like, pick one, choose one, decide, please. Can we stay consistent? And sometimes that inconsistency can definitely hold them back. Their seasonal connections with these signs, they appear at the end. They're closing out the season. They're the ones who are saying bye-bye until the Aries or the Libra or the Capricorn or the Cancer pick the new sign back, the new season back up. So that is the Gemini in the spring, the Virgo in the summer, and the Sagittarius in the autumn, and the Pisces in winter. So right at the closing of the season. And we have to remember that when we are looking at balance across the modalities, each modality includes one sign from each element: fire, earth, air, and water. This ensures the balance of energy and approach. The astrological houses in these alignments are annual and also centered around each house. So cardinal signs are the angular, which are the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th. And we'll get more into that. The fixed is the succudent. I can't talk, people. And that's the fifth. That's the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, and the 11th. Where the mutables are the cadent, which is the 3rd, the 6th, the 9th, the 12th. And I'll have a little comparison up in the video for those who are watching the YouTube channel. You could screenshot it, keep it, whatever it is that you want to do. And it kind of is like a little bit breakdown of the strengths, the weaknesses, the roles, and starting new things. And I do want to say that when we are looking at the energies of it in the chart, a lot more is focused on the actual house placements and how each sign is centered around the movement of the chart and the area of the sun being aligned with that energy of the either the mutable sign, cardinal sign, or the fixed sign. And we're definitely going to go into that. Like I said, this series is going to be a long-lasting series because, honey, I cannot get it out in a smaller form. It's just, for me, I need to be able to express, be able to share, make sure it's making sense. And probably, it's going to be a long series. So this is going to be the everlasting astrology series. I'm probably going to be recording this till I'm like 55, and that's okay. So everybody have an amazing day. And please like, comment, share. Let me know what sign you are in the comments. Do you feel like this is true with the cardinal signs, the areas of modalities, the areas of the fixed signs? What is your element? Let me know what is your modality and what is your element in the comments. And do you feel like some type of resonation? Do you feel like it all makes a little bit more sense now? And have an amazing day. Please, please, please subscribe to the channel. If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please hit subscribe. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscriptions. I mean, it's been a challenge working up this YouTube ladder, people. And don't forget to share this with your favorite witchy bestie. Have an amazing day. Bye.